Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is going to be a book haul. I think I haven't done one since like June or July, so I have a good amount of things are falling down back here. I have a good amount of books to show you. This is probably going to be a long video. There's like 45 books or something like that. Before we get started, leave a book emoji in the comments to let me know that you're here, and we will begin. So I have this kind of organized. We shall start with the books that I've won in giveaways, so there's, you know, a lot of them. Apparently I've been very lucky lately with Goodreads giveaways. But anyway, the first book I'll talk about here is Orpheus Girl by Brynne Rebele-Henry. So this, I think, is already out. So this is a retelling of sorts of Orpheus, I think. So we've got Raya, who is 16 and has been abandoned by her single mother. And so she lives with her grandma in a small conservative Texas town, and for years she's trying to hide her feelings for her best friend and true love, Sarah, but the two of them are outed and sent to Friendly Saviors, which is a re-education camp, trying to fix them and make them heterosexual. So Raya, I guess, vows to assume the role of Orpheus to return to the world of the living with her love once they get there, and after she, Sarah, and the other teen residents are subjected to abusive and brutal treatments by the staff, she only becomes more determined to escape. So this is definitely like a pretty hard-hitting retelling, I think, and it does say, you know, content warnings for self-harm, homophobia, transphobia, and violence against LGBTQ characters. But I do love a good retelling, and Orpheus seems like a really interesting one to do. I'm hoping that, you know, our characters will have some really great bonds, and we'll get to explore just some great LGBTQ characters. So I'm excited to check this out. It's also not that long either, so it should be good, hopefully. So the next book I'll talk about is A Magical New York Christmas by Anita Hughes. So this is romance. This already came out in September, so this is obviously a romance, and it's Christmas week. We have 26-year-old Sabrina, who knocks on the door of the Vanderbilt Suite at the Plaza Hotel in New York, ready to accept the ghostwriting position for a memoir of a famous art dealer, and she basically can't believe her luck. She feels like Eloise. To make the job more exciting, this art dealer recounts how he worked as a butler at the Plaza years ago for none other than the author of the Eloise books. And I guess then our main character meets a handsome British visitor at the hotel bar, and he assumes that she's wealthy, but she doesn't correct him, and turns out he's a member of the British aristocracy. Oh, but lies. He's actually the personal secretary of a lord, so it's basically like, as the week unfolds, will they learn the truth about each other? So this seems really cute, and I definitely enjoy reading some Christmas books around that time of the year, so I'm going to probably save this until December, but this seems just really adorable, and, you know, I do remember reading some of the Eloise books, and they're, like, really cute and magical, so yeah, I think this will be really cute, and I can't wait to get to it later this year. Next we have The Damage by, I didn't look up anybody's names. I may mispronounce authors' names. I try to look it up generally beforehand, but with book hauls, usually it's like, oh god, okay, I need to film. But anyway, Tijan? But anyway, this is a romance. This is actually the second book in a series. I have not read the first one, so that'll be fun. But I think this is like romantic suspense, so you don't necessarily follow the same couple the entire time. Like, it'll usually switch couples, so it's not as big of a deal, I think, to jump in. Not at the first book, but anyway. So we have Bailey, who is starting her graduate program late, and Cash, who's trying to find his newfound place with Phoenix Tech and his grandfather. Both of them were used to living in the shadows, but now they must live in the public eye. At school, everyone stares at Bailey, trying to figure out if she's really the whiz kid everyone says she is, or if she bought her way into school. Meanwhile, at home, Quinn is in jail, Quinn's sister Sarah is living with them, and it appears Chrissy and Peter are sleeping together again. I don't know any of these people, so maybe that's more meaningful if you've read the first book. But yeah, so I feel like I've heard good things about this series in general. This is, I think the series is called Insiders, and the first one is The Insiders, I don't know. But I think this is a trilogy. This comes out next February, so, you know, I've got a little bit of time, I guess, if I wanted to read the first one before jumping into this. But I'm kind of curious about it. It seems interesting. So then we have a couple thrillers that I want to give away. So the first one is 20 Years Later by Charlie, I don't know if it's Donlea, beats me, but I'm excited about this book. So this is a standalone thriller. So we have Avery, who's the host of, I think, a TV show, maybe? Yeah, and so her latest story is a murder mystery laced with kinky sex, tragedy, and betrayal, and it's guaranteed to be ratings gold. New DNA technology has allowed the New York Medical Examiner's Office to make its first successful identification of a 9/11 victim in years, The twist, however, is that the victim has been accused of the gruesome murder of her married lover, and in a chilling last phone call to her sister, the victim begged her to prove her innocence. And so we have another character, Emma, who has waited 20 years to put her sister to rest, but closure won't be complete until she can clear Victoria's name. But so I guess she kind of teams up with Avery and maybe investigate this. So Victoria had been having an affair with a successful novelist who had found hanging from the balcony of his Catskills mansion. The rope and everything was covered in her DNA, but there's some sort of darker mystery in that there are other players in the game interested in Avery's secret past, which she's fought to basically keep hidden, and a secret that she's thought dead and buried. So that sounds really interesting. I have another book by this author. I can't remember the name right now, but I've been kind of interested because they seem like really cool thrillers and like definitely fun stuff, but you know, this seems really interesting, and like even on the back, you know, it's like 20 years later. To understand the present, you need to listen to the past. And I mean, yeah, obviously dealing with 9/11 is going to be kind of hard, I think, to read about, but it seems like an interesting premise for a mystery, and I'm curious about all these different secrets going on and whether or not this woman, Victoria, actually did kill her lover, so we'll find out. But this sounds really good, and this comes out in January. Then we have The Killing Kind by Jane Casey, another thriller. It looks like this is already out, September 21st, so it's like he tells you you're... Oh, that's right, okay, so this is like somebody's stalker, like, tells this woman that she's in danger, but like it's coming from a stalker, so it's like, is that really trustworthy? Okay, so it's like he tells her you're special. As a barrister, Ingrid is used to dealing with tricky clients, but no one has ever come close to John Webster. After Ingrid defended Webster against a stalking charge, he then turned on her, following her, ruining her relationship, even destroying her home. So now she believes she's finally escaped his clutches, but when one of her colleagues is run down on a busy London road, she's sure that she was the intended victim. And then Webster shows up at her door and claims that she's in danger and that only he can protect her. So it's like stalker or savior, murderer or protector. The clock is ticking and her Ingrid must decide because the killer is ready to strike again. So that sounds really exciting. Like, I don't know, that I have no idea what to even expect here. Like, is he telling the truth? I don't know, but I think that will be a really interesting perspective to have. I don't know if we get, you know, multiple point of views here, but having a stalker involved and like maybe trying to save her life, I think that will be really exciting. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. Next we have A Question of Betrayal by Anne Perry. This is some number of book in this series, which I have not read any of them, so that's fun. I don't know, this is maybe like the second or third book, I think, in the series, but it's like a historical mystery, I think. So we've got Britain's secret intelligence service, and they've lost contact with its informant in northern Italy, just as important information about the schemes of Austria and Nazi Germany are coming to light. So we have a young Alina Standish, who is the only person who can recognize, I guess, the spy, because he's her former lover. This lover betrayed her 6 years ago, throwing shame on her entire family. Shame, shame. So now she, like, is heading out to track him down and figure out what happened to his handler, who mysteriously cut off contact with Britain. So I guess she gets word of a secret group working to put Austria into the hands of Germany, and her older sister is in Berlin to watch a childhood friend get married. Their grandfather, who is the former head of MI6, is none too happy about the sisters' travel during this time. And then I guess his own investigation collides with his granddaughter's, and what's at stake on the continent becomes increasingly frightening and personal. I'm always up for a good mystery series, so I don't really, I don't know. I feel like I'm not terribly bothered that this isn't the first book. Like, I'm sure that I'll lose out on some of the character development, but hopefully it'll be like totally fine to just jump in here and have like a complete mystery to really be told. So I don't know. I think that sounds really interesting, and certainly being set around, you know, the time of the world wars, that seems like it'll be intense, but hopefully this will be enjoyable. Okay, next we have Matrix by Lauren Groff. So this comes out, oh, this is already out, I guess. So this is, I think, historical fiction, and okay, well, that is incredibly vague. Do we have a good synopsis? So there is not a synopsis on this, so let me look it up. So our main character, I guess, is cast out of the royal court by Eleanor of Aquitaine, and she's sent to England to be the new prioress of an impoverished abbey. It's nuns on the brink of starvation and beset by disease. So she's first kind of taken aback by the severity of her new life and finds focus and love in collective life with her sisters and she supplants her desire for family, homeland, the passions of her youth with something new to her, devotion to her sisters, and a conviction in her own divine visions. I guess she's born the last in a long line of women warriors and crusaders, and she's trying to chart a bold new course for the women she now leads and protects. So that seems interesting. I have not read the other book, what is it, Fates and Furies by this author, so I have no clue what to really expect here, but it seems interesting enough. Like, I was kind of intrigued by this, like, I don't know, royal connection, I guess, so we'll see how this goes. The last giveaway that I won is The Last Dance of the Debutante by Julia Kelly. So this comes out in December, and I'm really excited about this one. This is the sister of Justine from I Should Read That if you don't know that. So here we've got the debutantes being presented to Queen Elizabeth II. So we have bookish Lily, who never dreamed that she would become one of the last debutantes to be presented to the Queen. But when her traditional grandmother manages to secure her an invitation to court, she's launched into the glittering, grueling string of balls and cocktail parties that is the London season. Amid the swirl of parties, she befriends two very different debutantes, the cool and aloof Liana, whose apparent perfection hides a dark side, and the ambitious Catherine, who dreams of a career while helping her parents find their place among the elite. But this kind of all evaporates once Lily learns a devastating secret that threatens to destroy her entire family. Faced with a dark past, she's forced to ask herself what really matters, her family legacy or her own happiness. So this seems really exciting. Like, I've been kind of intrigued by Julia Kelly's books. Again, there's, you know, that connection, like, I'm friends with Justine, so I've kind of just been curious about these. But, you know, I think, again, I don't read that much historical fiction, but this seemed really interesting to me because of the whole, like, debutante season and all of that going on. Like, that seems like something I don't know that much about, but I think that would be really fascinating, especially with, like, the last one that we've got here. But I'm also curious about this secret and, you know, our different friends here, so definitely want to check this out. So then I have some books that I bought through library sales and just like through my library's online bookstore. Most of these were really cheap, like 50 cents, so I kind of just picked up some books. So anyway, the first two I'll talk about here are The Sin Eater's Daughter and The Sleeping Prince. Both of these are by Melinda Salisbury, so these are YA fantasy, and I read Hold Back the Tide by this author, I think that was earlier this year. Oh my god. But I really liked that, and I've been kind of intrigued and like wanted to check out more of her work. So we've got our 17-year-old main character, Twyla, who lives in the castle, and she's engaged to the prince, but she's not a member of the court. She's the executioner. So she instantly kills anyone she touches, and every month she's taken to the prison and forced to lay her hands on those accused of treason. And even the prince, whose royal blood supposedly makes him immune, avoids her company. But we've got a new guard arriving, and unlike the others, he's able to see the girl, not the goddess, but she's already promised the prince and knows, you know, what happens to people who cross the queen. So it turns out the queen has a plan to destroy her enemies, some sort of plan that requires an unthinkable sacrifice. And so what will, you know, Twyla do to protect her kingdom? Will she abandon her duty in favor of doomed love? So this is the first book, and then this is the second book. I think this is a trilogy. So let's see here. Oh, okay, it looks like we follow different characters here. That's interesting. Let's avoid reading that to avoid spoilers. These are in like really great condition, and my library had the first two, so I was like, okay, sure, I will buy them and support my library. So I'm excited and curious to check these ones out for sure. Like, I am kind of intrigued by the idea of like a fatal touch. Like, that seems really interesting to me, but also, yeah, also, like I said, I had just been wanting to try out more of Melinda Salisbury's work after really enjoying Hold Back the Tide. Next, we have Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. So this is the sequel to Rebel at the Stands, which I own but haven't read yet, but again, this was 50 cents, so like, okay. Like, I was kind of looking through reviews of Goodreads Friends, and like, it seems to be pretty highly rated, so I felt okay buying this, but yeah, this is YA fantasy. I don't really know much about it. There's some sort of gunslinging element. Our main character has fled her hometown on the back of a mythical horse and is struggling to contain her desire for a mysterious foreigner, and is trying to fight to liberate the entire desert nation from the grips of a bloodthirsty sultan. But basically, the longer she remains, the more she questions whether the sultan is really the villain she's been told he is, and who's the real traitor to her homeland. So yeah, I mean, this seems like a really interesting series, and I feel like I'm going to enjoy it, so you know, I just need to read the first one first, and then I'll jump into this. But I like that it's like this desert setting, and I'm very curious about the gunslinging element. Like, that seems really cool, because I do enjoy sort of Western takes on things. So we shall find out. Next one we have is Fierce Fairytales by Nikita Gill. So I've heard a couple of people talk about this. I think I first heard about it from Ola from the Reading Witches channel. And this is like poems and stories, obviously it's like fairy tale things. So we've got traditional fairy tales that are rife with cliches and gender stereotypes. So this new prose and poetry collection gives Once Upon a Time a much needed modern makeover. So they're just reimaginings of fairy tales, and the author is dismantling the old-fashioned tropes that have been ingrained into our minds. So we've got some pretty fierce ladies, I think. So I'll admit that I don't read that many poems at all, but I have just been really intrigued by this, and of course I do love a good fairy tale retelling. Next we have Radiance by Grace Draven. So this I think is like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Certainly fantasy. I thought it was adult fantasy, but anyway, so we have a prince who has lived content as the non-essential spare heir to the throne, and I guess a trade and political alliance between the human kingdom and this Kai kingdom requires that he marry a woman to seal the deal. He agrees to the marriage and discovers his bride is as ugly as he expected and more beautiful than he could have imagined. The niece that he marries has always known her only worth to the royal family lay in a strategic marriage, so she's horrified to learn that her intended groom isn't just a foreign aristocrat, but the younger prince of a people neither familiar nor human. So she's bound to her new husband and will leave behind all she's known to embrace a man shrouded in darkness but with a soul forged by light. So, I mean, I've heard really great things about this. I've read one book by this author before and enjoyed it. I think that's definitely like fantasy romance, and the one that I read was more of like a slow burn thing, but I've heard really great things about this in general, and again, I love a good fairy tale retelling, so I'm pretty sure this is kind of Beauty and the Beast-esque, and it kind of sounds that way. So that is one of my favorite fairy tales, so I'm really excited to check this out. And it also seems, you know, we have arranged marriage trope, you know, we've got, I don't know what sort of hostile kingdom schemes we have, but I definitely want to find out. Next we have Isle of Blood and Stone by Makiia Lucier. So this is obviously autographed, so let's take a look here. I will show you. Yep. So again, this was 50 cents, so I have like kind of heard about it, and like I recognized the name, thought it was autographed, so I was like, okay, sure. Anyway, this is YA fantasy. So we have 18 years ago, two princes of the island kingdom were kidnapped and murdered in a deadly plot by the rival kingdom. Everyone knows the story, but for Elias, Mercedes, and Ulysses, the aftermath of that tragic day is deeply personal. Elias's father was killed trying to protect the princes. Mercedes is half Mondragon, which is this rival kingdom, leaving her to grow up in the shadow of the Delmar, this, you know, kingdom we're in, that hate. And Ulysses inherited the throne meant for his older brothers. Now the three friends just want to move on with their lives. But when two maps surface, each with the same hidden riddle, they begin to doubt the story that they've always been told. To discover what really happened that day, they have to follow the clues hidden in the maps, uncovering long-held secrets and unimaginable trails along the way. But the truth is dangerous, and not everyone wants it to come out. So that seems really interesting. I am kind of now wondering if this is actually inspired by, like, British history, because, like, the two princes being murdered, like, that kind of reminds me of, like, the two princes in the Tower. I don't know if that's at all accurate for an inspiration, but if it is, that's very intriguing to me. So anyway, but, you know, with hidden riddles and maps and like a quest uncovering the clues and things like that seems really exciting. I'm always up for like a good treasure and secret hunt. Next we have Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore. So this is a retelling of some sort, I think. So don't remember what it is, but summer 1518, we have a strange sickness sweeping through France. Women dance in the streets without stopping, some until they fall down dead. As rumors of witchcraft and demon possession spread, suspicion turns to Lavinia and her family, and she may have to do the unimaginable to save herself and everyone she loves. So 5 centuries later, a pair of beautiful red shoes seals to Rosella's feet, making her dance uncontrollably. And they draw her to a boy who knows the dancing fever's history better than anyone, because I guess his family was blamed for the fever 500 years ago. But there's more that happened back then than even they know, and discovering the truth may determine whether or not Rosella survives the red shoes. So, I have read, was it Blanca and Roja, by this author before, and enjoyed it. I think that was like a Snow White, Rose Red retelling. So I guess this is like the, what is it, like the red shoe? Is that, I don't know if that's the right fairy tale. Anyway, I've been really intrigued by this, and Angela from Literature Science Alliance had mentioned that she thought that I would enjoy this, even though, like, I'm kind of iffy on magical realism, which I think this may lean a little bit into, but, you know, we'll find out. Next we have Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake. So this is YA horror, and we have Cass, who has inherited an unusual vocation. He kills the dead. So did his father before him, until his gruesome murder by a ghost he sought to kill. So Kaz travels the country with his kitchen witch mother and their spirit-sniffing cat, and they follow legends and local lore trying to keep up with the murderous dead, keeping pesky things like the future and friends at bay. So they arrive in a new town in search of a ghost that the locals call Anna dressed in blood. And Kaz doesn't expect anything outside the ordinary, track, hunt, and kill. But what he finds instead is the girl entangled in curses and rage, a ghost like he's never faced before. She still wears the dress she wore on the day of her brutal murder in 1958, once red, but now stained red and dripping blood. Since her death, she's killed any and every person who's dared to step into the deserted Victorian she used to call home, but for whatever reason, spares his life. So this seems really interesting. I've seen this around a bit and kind of been intrigued by this. Also, like, the font is sort of this dark red blood color, which I think is really exciting. I like that. I like when they do that. Anyway, so I've read a couple of books by this author before and enjoyed them, but I think this seems really appealing to me. Like, I'm definitely in the mood for YA horror right now. I think I might try to get to this in October, but hopefully it'll be good and nice and spooky. Next we have The Girl from the Well by Chupeco, also YA horror, and like, this cover scares the shit out of me. It reminds me of The Ring, which like absolutely terrified me when I was growing up. I watched it in like 7th grade and was so scared. I was at a sleepover with a friend and like called my parents at like, I don't know, 3 in the morning. I was like, can you come get me? I can't sleep. I'm too scared. And they're like, no, go to bed. We'll pick you up in the morning. So anyway, yeah, I don't do well with horror movies. But, so we have Okiku, who knows anger and pain. They're what she last felt before her life was brutally taken from her more than 300 years ago. Now a restless spirit, she wanders, seeking out those who viciously take the lives of children. She always gets her revenge. She has no remorse for the wicked, until she meets a 17-year-old Park. So it's apparently part The Ring, part The Grudge, and part The Exorcist. So it's a very creepy story, but I've heard really good things about it, and I recognized the author's name and thought this looked fun and like a nice YA horror, so hopefully it'll be good. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to buddy read this with Justine from I Should Read That and Amber from Books of Amber in October, which I guess is next week. I don't know how that happened. I guess this is the last of the library books. Next I have The Program by Suzanne Young. So I think this is like YA dystopia / sci-fi. But I've read, where did they get? I've read The Girls with Sharp Sticks, the first 2 books of that series, and really enjoyed them. So I've been kind of interested in, you know, her other series and happened to find this one. Sloane knows better than to cry in front of anyone. With suicide now an international epidemic, one outburst could land her in The Program, which is the only proven course of treatment. Her parents have already lost one child, and she knows they'll do anything to keep her safe. But she also knows that everyone who's gone through the program returns as a blank slate, because their depression is gone, but so are their memories. So she's under constant surveillance, and just kind of tries to bury her feelings deep, and the only person she can be herself with is James. He promised to keep them both safe and out of treatment, and she knows their love is strong enough to withstand anything. But despite the promises they've made to each other, it's getting harder to hide the truth. They're both growing weaker, depression is setting in, and the program is coming for them. So I've heard kind of mixed things about this series in general, but I'm kind of intrigued by that premise. So obviously, like, some content warnings, I assume, with suicide, but I don't know. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable. One more used book that I found at a little used library when I was walking Samus is Swept Away by Robyn Carr. So this is like a pretty beat up book, but I think this is adult romance. I think this is the author of the Virgin River series, which I've heard good things about the show. I haven't read the books or watched the show, but I don't know. I was just out on a walk and saw this and was like, okay, I'll pick it up. Anyway, so we have Jennifer, who is proud of her life. She's coming from nothing. She's used her beauty to her advantage and is swept up in the glamorous world of wealth and privilege as the mistress of a high-flying businessman. But when she walks in on a violent scene in their Las Vegas hotel room, she knows she can no longer ignore the truth about her boyfriend and flees. She's desperate to escape the men searching for her and invents a whole new persona with a new look and name as she hides out in a small Nevada town. So she finds a mentor in Louise, who's a retired professor who takes her in, and basically she discovers that she was missing a sense of community and purpose from her life, but it's not easy to simply disappear. Her neighbor is a cop, and while he's friendly enough, he may also suspect that she's not what she seems. So she's kind of surprised to realize that, you know, even though she's under constant threat of being discovered, she's genuinely happy. So, you know, it's like what happens when her past catches up with her. So, yeah, I mean, basically, I just picked this up because I was trying to kill time while Ivy was vacuuming it, because the Samus hates the vacuum, so, you know, obviously they can't be in the same room or even in the apartment while he does that. But the premise actually sounds really interesting to me, and I've definitely been in a mood for some romance and whatnot lately, and again, like, I don't know if this is good. Maybe I'll check out the Virgin River books and show. I've heard good things and have been kind of meaning to check it out. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or think you might pick them up. And for your question of the day, have you bought books recently? And if so, which ones? So I do have a Discord channel, and if you want to join that, the link's in the description below. I hope you're all having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.